back, everybody. I am CD3 Daddy,
And I'm C3DG Minecraft.
and today we are talking kelp. Now, the outline you see in front of me is a bit different than usual, and that is because we are going to build the core module of a single kelp farm, and then we're going to show you how to expand it to 4 modules. As you can see, when you expand to 4 modules, it takes up very little space. A single module will fit inside a build border of 21 blocks long and 8 blocks wide. However, when you increase it to 4 modules, which will be a total of 48 kelp plants, it will be 36 blocks long and 13 blocks wide. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to build a small 2x3 platform, and we're going to do this right up on the build border, leaving a 1 block gap on the corner. Now, once you have your 2x3 platform, we are going to hop down and we are going to place a single piston 1 block in front, right in the middle, just like that. And then Colin is going to go ahead and place 12 redstone blocks in front of our piston. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to place 12 dispensers on top of our redstone. So Colin, if you wouldn't mind placing those for me. All right, now when you place your dispensers, be sure to look down at the block because we are wanting our dispensers facing up. The next step is to build up a wall next to your dispenser, so add a single block and then build up 3 blocks tall. And we will get to the other side here in a moment. We are going to grab pistons and we're going to walk right up to that wall and place 12 pistons facing down towards your dispenser. And you're just going to do this all the way back. So Colin, if you wouldn't mind finishing that up for me. All right, now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to build down 3 blocks to complete the frame. And then we're going to add a note block directly under our last building block of choice. Again, with most of our videos, we just pick a random block and we try to call out when it needs to be a solid block or a transparent block. Right now we're building with solid blocks, but technically they could be transparent. Once you have your note block, we are going to place a piston 1 block away from our redstone blocks. And then we're going to place an observer looking right into that note block. So the output will be facing away from your farm. Now, if you are building a single module only, you are going to place a note block behind your piston and then a solid block on top. That does need to be a solid block. And your structure is built, and now it's just time to fill it in. I'm going to start on the inside of my farm. Right now you've got 3 blocks on one side, 2 blocks on another. On the side with the 3 blocks, we are going to place a row of blocks. These can be solid or transparent. And we're going to extend it out 1 until we have a 2x12 platform, just like that. We're going to go to the back side of the farm and we're going to build up a block. And we're just going to run it all the way across. All right, now from inside your farm or on top of your farm, you are going to place any type of stair right above your dispenser on the block that we just added. Make sure that the stair is facing towards you and then do that all the way down. So you'll place 12 stairs. We are going to be waterlogging these stairs, so you will need to place an additional block on the side to make sure the water doesn't spill out. Once you have added your stairs, it is time to create the water stream that will be used to collect our kelp. So I'm going to build out 3 blocks. I'm going to extend our platform by 1. I'm going to do this on both sides. And the next step is going to be completely up to you. Now, the reason I say it's up to you, what we are going to do is we are going to place a row of closed fence gates in the gap in front of our 2-block platform. Now, I don't like building with temporary blocks. So what I typically do is I just crouch and I place the fence gates all the way along the side. However, if you wanted to do a temporary ledge, you can certainly do that and then just place them down a little quicker. And I use quartz when I use temporary blocks because they're easy to break. But that's all you're going to do to contain your water. And the next step is to grab a water bucket, and we are going to place water on top of each dispenser. Now, if you're building this in survival or inside of an SMP, you can use ice and then break it. It's a little bit easier. And then once you have all the water placed on the dispenser, you can use a bucket to grab water, because these will be an infinite water source. And then you'll just waterlog the stairs. All right, now that you have your water in place, you're going to hop into your farm if you have exited, and you're going to place a kelp plant on top of each dispenser. And your farm is just about complete. Now we are going to build a clock. All right, now back to our platform. The reason we built this platform is we are going to elevate our clock up 1 block, and I'm going to show you a different clock than I normally use in these tutorials. And I'm going to explain just real briefly our new shifting floor pattern. The first thing I'm going to do is place a repeater on a 4-tick right in front of the piston on the closest block. I'm going to place a comparator facing away and right-click it to put it in subtract mode. And then I'm going to run redstone dust all the way back to the repeater. I am going to crouch and place an observer looking at that repeater. And then I'm going to place a copper bulb with a button on the side to turn it on and off. Now, this is the clock that I've been using on almost every farm inside of DonutSMP. I find it to be a little bit more reliable. There are less components to fail on you, and it's a lot cheaper. The only expensive part is the copper bulb. I just like the way it is. It's a single block T flip-flop. You can use other blocks that give a redstone signal. It just has to make it back to the repeater. But I'm going to use the copper bulb because that's what I've been using myself. Hop on your clock and place another observer facing down with the output facing up. Grab a solid block, does need to be solid, place it on top, and then run a redstone dust line all the way across your pistons. And just like that, our farm is complete. Now, we have some kelp, so Colin, if you would mind turning it on real quick. All right, turn it off. Now, the nice thing about this farm, the farm can be left on even without the bone meal, and the kelp will grow naturally. So if you are out of bone meal, don't worry, just leave your farm on and it will continue to grow kelp. Now, on the back side, to put bone meal into it, I'm going to leave this up to your imagination. What I typically do, so you have to place 2 hoppers into each dispenser. I do leave enough room in the build border for the hopper line. How you choose to get bone meal in your hoppers, I'm going to leave that up to you. I typically place a water stream that goes all the way around my farms, which we can demonstrate later. All right. Now, inside of SMPs that do occasionally experience lag, when you have any large server, you're going to experience lag. I am trying a new method. Instead of running a redstone clock from one side to another, I am using a new method. So Colin, if you wouldn't mind turning it on for me. Where when a block shifts underneath a shifting platform, the note block will actually update because it changes state based on what block is underneath it or whether there's an air block. And then the observer mixed with the note block will detect the signal and push it back. Now this does work extremely well inside of DonutSMP. Colin and I have dozens and dozens of these running at the same time, and we have yet to have one fail on us. So it's a really simple, really easy to build shifting floor. Now, depending on how you chose to power your comparator, I like to use a button on the side of my copper bulb. But what you can actually do just as easily, you can place a lever on the back side of it. That works just as well. Or you can place redstone torch behind it and then the switch will be the comparator itself. So you don't have to get fancy like I did. Now that is your first kelp module complete. As you can see, all of the kelp drops directly below, so the only thing left to do is create a water stream, which, since we are going to be adding on to this one, we will do towards the end of the video. For now, we are going to duplicate this, except we are going to mirror it. So what I'm going to start off is by placing 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks of choice. They don't have to be solid blocks. And that is going to be that 1 block gap for our hoppers. I am going to go ahead and run another row below it. And then I'm going to build the exact same platform, just mirrored. So I'm going to leave a gap, place 2 blocks, and fill it in all the way across. Just like that. Now, all of my kelp is going to be exiting opposite of my clock, and you'll see why I am doing that in a moment. So I did block off this backside. However, on the side that you are sending your kelp, you don't want to build a wall underneath, so we're just going to leave that as is. But we are going to take this barrier back so we can continue our build. And Colin, if you wouldn't mind hopping in and placing dispensers just up against that 2-block platform. All right. Now, just like before, we are going to use redstone blocks. Let me go ahead and grab one real quick and grab my piston. Now, I chose to build the platform first because I'm using the same center gap as my collection stream. You can build the shifting floor first. I just find it easier to build off of what is already there. So go ahead and place your redstone blocks directly underneath your dispensers, and then add a single piston to push those redstone blocks. Now, we only need 1 clock for this farm, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run any block of choice up to my piston, just like before. I'm going to place redstone dust all the way until I am 1 block away. And now I'm going to place an observer right on the redstone dust. And I missed. And actually, I just realized you don't need this bottom corner, so we can remove that. That'll make it a little easier. So crouch, look at your redstone dust, and place it. If you're having trouble with that, you can actually do it this way too. I just don't like using blocks unnecessarily. And now, when we turn the main farm on, the second farm will pulse right along with it. So we are going to build this out the exact same way. I'm going to build this up 3 blocks tall. I'm going to, apparently I lost my piston. I'm going to place my pistons all the way, facing down. And now I'm going to build up this side as well. And again, the reason we are going a little quicker is because it is an exact mirror of the one that we just built. So I'm going to place blocks on the back side of my dispensers, 1 block above, and Colin's going to place stairs. Remember to add a block to contain the water or it will spill out. Colin, if you wouldn't mind placing water on the dispensers and waterlogging those stairs, I will do the redstone on this side. So place an observer looking down with a solid block, and then redstone dust all the way along the top of the pistons. And just like that, our second farm is nearly complete. The only thing left to do is the return side for our pistons. And again, it is identical. So I keep losing my piston. Here we go. So place a piston 1 block in front of your redstone. Place a note block behind on the dispenser with an observer looking in and a solid block. Colin went ahead and planted kelp on top of the dispenser. So Colin, if you wouldn't mind turning on the farm, we will fly up so we can see them both activate. And that is perfect. Both farms are running. Now, The reason they are alternating is for a couple reasons. The main reason is because we have a delay on the repeater, but we are also trying to avoid firing them at the same time to reduce lag a little bit. Let me turn that off. And your farm is complete, and we are ready to move on to extending it in length. This is another identical build. There is some work that has already been done for us. Now, if you're going to leave it like this, you are ready to move all of your kelp to a storage system or a smelting system. But I want to extend it to more modules. So I'm going to hop down. Where these note blocks are, I'm going to replace them with pistons. And this is going to be the starting point for our next farm. Once you have your pistons there, we are going to place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 redstone blocks. We are going to place dispensers on top of all the redstone blocks. And then we are going to do the same thing we did on the first 2 farms, and that's build up 3 blocks next to our first dispenser and add pistons facing down all the way along your kelp farm. Once you have done that, we can grab an observer, and we're going to go ahead and wire this up now. Place an observer looking down into the observer below with a solid block on top, and then add redstone dust all the way along those pistons. Now, just like the note block, we had to remove it when extending it. There is another block that we have to change, and you will need a transparent block, so I'm going to get glass. You technically don't need this. I think it looks nicer to have a block here. Whenever the observer powers this redstone line that fires your top pistons, it is also going to power the piston next to it. So we are going to replace that with a transparent block, or you can just leave it off if you don't mind that look. I do want a block there because my OCD will kick in. All right, we are going to place a platform in front of our dispensers, just like we did on the first 2. And we are going to carry this all the way across. Just remember to leave that 1 block gap in the middle for your collection system. And then we are going to add our blocks on the back side. And then if you want to go ahead and do this while you're over here, add your wall of 3 blocks down with a note block on the dispenser, same on both sides. A piston 1 block away facing the redstone. An observer inside or looking at the note block. Note block behind the piston, and a solid block on top. Now there is nothing to stop you from extending this another module. We are just going to demonstrate 2 because off of the main module, everything is exactly the same. So you can rewind this video and watch how to expand off of the second farm in the exact same way we expanded off of the first farm. All right, grab your stairs. We are going to place our stairs right above our dispensers. And don't forget those blocks to contain that water. All right, we are just about done. We are going to add our walls. Now, we're going to get to this here in a moment when we do our water stream. But for now, we are going to just run a single block. We're going to do this on both sides. And as I said before, when I place my fence gates, I usually just crouch and place them. If you wanted to do temporary blocks along the middle, it might be a little easier to place them quicker, depending on the temporary blocks you have in your inventory. Oh goodness, Colin, we're fighting each other. There we go. All right, grab your water and grab your kelp. Go ahead and place water on top of your dispensers. Place water inside of your stairs. And don't forget to plant your kelp. Just like that. All right, Colin, if you don't mind going to the clock, we're going to flip this on just to make sure it works. And I have no doubt that it will. And just like that, it looks like a 4-stroke engine. So go ahead, Colin, flip it off. It is working perfectly. Now, the reason I said that we were going to get back to this, when I am building my farms, I like to be able to jump in and out pretty easily. You can do this beforehand, or you can do this now as I'm doing it. But I am going to build these walls up an additional block. I've never had them jump over a second block, but there's no reason that you can't build the wall all the way up. And we like building ours with glass so we can look inside the farm as it is producing to make sure that everything is working correctly. You can use any block that you choose, but again, I think glass looks nice. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is find a place for all this kelp. We are going to run all the way to the back of the farm towards our clock. And we are just going to place any block underneath to contain the water. And we're going to do this all the way down. Now, when you get to this gap here, the only thing that you have to fill in is the row leading up to the next segment. So you can leave this open if you wanted to. I think on our farm inside of Donut, I think Colin blocked it off all the way like this. So that's what I'm going to do. Just make sure that you've got a 2-block gap all the way down. And Colin, where do you think the kelp's going to go?
Out.
Yeah, out. All right. So what we're going to do now is a basic water stream that we've done several times in our videos. So we're going to breeze through this. What we're going to use this time, I'm going to use a spruce trapdoor, and I'm going to get some packed ice. And I've already got my fence gates. So I'm going to place water on the back side of my farm closest to my clock. And then I'm going to let it flow 8 blocks. And then on the 8th block, I'm actually going to break that out and replace it with packed ice. And I'm going to shorten the water. I'm going to shorten the water with a trapdoor on the top section. And the reason I'm doing that is when items fall directly onto the last block of water, I've not had any get stuck, but this just gives it a little extra momentum. So we're going to stop it at the 8th block. We are going to place a fence gate behind the trapdoor. Open it so kelp can pass through it. There is no hitbox when it is open. And then we're going to place water on top of the trapdoor. And then we're going to repeat this all the way down. So every time the water ends, break, ice, trapdoor, fence gate, and water. Colin, if you don't mind finishing that for me, I'm going to fly up here. And I'm just going to show why we do that. If you were to just continue the water stream and kelp fell where our fence gate is on top of our packed ice, there will be no water movement. So those entities will just sit there and despawn. This way, all of our kelp can flow out freely. All right, let's add our hoppers to the back of our dispensers. We will fill it up and turn it on for you so you can see it run. And then we will talk about drying your kelp and making kelp blocks. All right, now before we get to our bubble column, we are just going to briefly demonstrate what we use in our base. So Colin, if you don't mind throwing some bone meal in there. We have a bone meal crafter set up that just flows into the side of our farm next to our hoppers. And what we do is we add a fence gate every 5 blocks. So there's 4 blocks in the middle. This will give enough momentum to skip the pistons. You just need to make sure that you're thrown up against the wall or flowing into the wall like Colin has. And we wrap it all the way around, just like this, every 5 blocks until we get to the back end. Now, again, this is going to be completely up to you based on how you build your farm. This is how we have it in DonutSMP in our base. But again, this is just an example. All right, and adding a little fancy bubble column, we now have the full 4-stroke duck kelp farm. Now, Colin is going to go ahead and turn it on. A couple things about this farm. It does have 48 kelp plants, which means that it will produce 96 kelp per second. The thing that stands out about this farm, unlike other traditional kelp farms that use bone meal, a lot of those farms require a hopper. And with as fast as we produce kelp, the kelp will exceed the hopper capacity very quickly. Since we are not using hoppers yet, we are able to transport them much further and much quicker. All right, Colin, if you wouldn't mind turning it off. Now, again, this does produce a ton of kelp. We will get you the numbers towards the end of the video. We'll even tell you how many smokers you should expect to use if you're going to try this out and convert it into kelp blocks. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break and tell you about a hosting company that we use called HostBite. Stop! Are you looking for your very own Minecraft or Vein server? Then look no further. Today's video is sponsored by HostBite, a hosting company providing outstanding performance without breaking your wallet. Click the link in the description below to find out more. Head over to see all the various Minecraft plans showcasing different servers from around the world. And remember, HostBite is not just limited to Minecraft. Go explore all the other various games HostBite has to offer. All right, thank you for that quick break. We are extremely excited to be working with HostBite. They are the ones that are going to be hosting our SMP that we are really close to launching. So go over there and check them out. All right, now that we have a functioning kelp farm, we need a place to store, or in our case, smelt. We are going to go ahead and continue this water stream, and we're just going to wrap it around until we are next to our farm. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. What we're going to do is simply turn the water stream like we've done in several videos in the past. All right, now, depending on where you direct this is how long you can build this. Now, if you're building this in DonutSMP, remember the render distance. If you are going to be building a maximum capacity base, you can build a 5x5 chunk and AFK the entire base from the direct center chunk. If you have multiple accounts or multiple friends sharing the base, you can obviously make this bigger. But what we are going to do is we're just going to wrap it around to the side of our farm, and then we'll talk about how many you'll actually need. So when you pick a location to start your smokers, now it is best to use a smoker instead of a furnace, because smokers will convert the kelp to dried kelp twice as fast. Each smoker takes 5 seconds to smelt a kelp. We are going to place it 2 blocks down, or really 1 block down. It's going to be on the second block, and then we are going to place hoppers into the top. Now, I'm going to do this 2x2 because we can fill both sides at the same time. And I'm just going to run this line of smokers as far as I possibly can. So for this example, I'm just going to run to the back of our farm. All right, once you have your smokers laid out, we are going to take hoppers and we're going to place them into the top of the smokers. All right, once you have your hoppers into the side of the smokers, you are going to take more hoppers or additional hoppers and place them into the side of the smokers. And you're going to do this on both sides for both smokers. And once you have all of your hoppers and all of your smokers laid out as far as you want, we are going to extend the guardrails, or whatever you want to call these, that is going to contain the water. And I'm just going to extend this all the way until I reach the end. All right, now if you just have a single module, you can probably get away with a long straight line of smokers, but more often than not, and most likely, you are going to need to wrap this around to fit inside of your base. So we are going to show you what we did inside of our base. We extended the platform out 2 blocks, so 2x2, and then we extended it over 4 blocks, so it's going to be a 2x6. And we are going to do another row of smokers. So what I'm going to do is add a couple blocks here at the bottom so I can place my smokers up against them. And just like before, we are going to run this all the way back. So give us just a second and we'll be right back. And just like before, you are going to place hoppers into the tops of your smokers and into the side of your smokers. And you're going to do that all the way down. All right. Now, once you have your second row, you can continue adding them side by side. And we're going to show you a quick way of adding your fuel source and then the water on top. But the most important thing is blocking off the top hoppers from the bottom hoppers. That way you don't get kelp in your fuel source and your fuel source doesn't mix with your kelp. So we are going to extend our guardrails, and once you reach the end of it, you can send the excess into storage, or you can do like I do, and that just monitor it and make sure that it doesn't fly off. So once it gets to the end, I know that my smokers are full. So we're gonna go ahead and just get in my way, boy. Just like that. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is focus on the water for the kelp. We are gonna grab some chests. All right. Now back at our source water stream, we are going to add a double chest right at the end, so the water will flow and hit this double chest and make a turn. And then we're going to do the exact same pattern that we've done on several of our videos. We are going to place rails opposite of the water to make sure it is a single block of water. And then where the water ends, we are going to place rails in front and run it down 8 blocks. And as Colin informed me yesterday, he likes to put the water down first so he doesn't have to count. And I don't disagree with that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that too. So place your rail in front of the water. Place your next bucket of water. And then just zigzag them all the way down until you reach the end. So we will go to the end and then we'll be right back with you. All right, we have made it to the end. Now, depending on how many smokers you choose to add and where your water started, your turn may be different than ours. The thing that you need to keep in mind when making turns, and we have a video on this that we will place right up on the top of the screen. Just remember that we messed up on the slime block, so don't judge us for that too harshly. Whenever your items are flowing between 2 hoppers, when they get to the end, it does need to be... Actually, Colin, I'm going to move this over 1 block. Just like that. Colin's will work. I just like it hitting a full block of water. The thing that you can't do is... Whoops. The thing that you can't do is add a block there, because the items are going to be center aligned. So they will clip the corner of any full block. So if you are going to place the water like Colin did and do a rail, that will work. You can also do a fence gate. Anything that is not a full block should work. But what I'm going to do is just extend it all the way back. And on our platform, you'll see that we turned it into a 1 block wide water stream instead of a 2 block wide. And then when we get to our turn, same thing that we did at the beginning. We added a double chest, so the items will hit the double chest and they'll turn and be perfectly aligned, because a chest is not a full block, as you can see from the gap. So those items will go right up to the hitbox of the chest and be perfectly aligned between both hoppers. And you'll just continue this pattern all the way until you reach the end. So instead of boring you watching us place endless amounts of water and iron bars, we're just going to skip to the end. And just like that, our water stream is complete. We are going to center align off of this double chest. We are going to zigzag between the iron bars and the water streams. We are going to turn it and realign it on the return path until we get to the end. Again, you can extend this to some overflow storage. Sometimes I'll add a few hoppers and a couple chests. That way If I'm buying really expensive blaze rods or something, it isn't going to break the bank, and I can reuse it. Now, if you're not worried about that, you can just cap it off like I do. Speaking of blaze rods, let's go ahead and talk about how we add the fuel source. Now, this is going to be a little different because we are crossing water streams. What we do is we throw from the end. The reason we throw from the end is because more often than not, where your starting point is, there's going to be water streams that you're going to interact with. So we're going to start at the end, and we're just going to build up a platform in front of our hoppers. And this is going to act as our throwing station. So let me just cap this off. Just like that. This will be our throwing station. So when we throw our fuel source up against the wall, it'll align on these back 2 blocks. The reason we want to do that is because of the wonky hitbox of a hopper. If items flow in the middle of the hopper, sometimes they can get stuck. Colin, throw a hopper on the ground and demonstrate. As you can see, Colin is standing inside of the hopper. Colin, step forward just a little bit. And now he's standing on the edge of the hopper. If you are a small item with a really small hitbox, if the water stream is not fast enough, the items can get stuck when the hopper fills up. So to avoid that, we are aligning it on the edge of the hoppers just by throwing up against the wall and having the items hit the back block. And that will also prevent us from having any kind of angular momentum and getting stuck on top of the smokers. Now, what we typically do, just like the bone meal, we are going to add... Colin, do you want to use fence gates or trapdoors?
Trapdoors.
Okay, Colin's really fond of the trapdoors lately, so I guess we'll switch to trapdoors. All right, we're going to do the same thing. Every 5 blocks, we're going to add a trapdoor. So this is not going to have any type of momentum. So the items do need to exit a rather quick stream of water. So instead of going the full 8 blocks, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, trapdoor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, trapdoor. Just like that. And then we are going to take it to the end, and we'll be right back to show you how to turn it around. All right, we went ahead and added a trapdoor, and a top trapdoor every 5 blocks with water in between. Now what this is going to do is when the items exit the water stream, they will have enough momentum to slide across the hopper, and since they are on the edge of the hopper will still be able to pull them in. And you're going to do this all the way until you get to the end. Now this is where it gets a little tricky because the water has to flow underneath a water stream that is only 1 block above it. So what we're going to do is we are going to place water, or we're going to place blocks to hold the water right up against the back of the smokers. Now, when you are in survival, you will probably need a pearl for this. You could do this first. I always do the top water stream. That way, I don't have to reroute the fuel source. It's a lot easier to reroute the fuel source while you're building it than redo it. So we have our water stream up top and we have our water stream ending down below. So we are going to break out all the blocks up to our packed ice. And then we're going to have that block underneath. Now you can see that these are now mixing. To take care of this, we are going to add a trapdoor for a surface for the top water stream. But what that's going to do is that's going to stop our items from flowing, more than likely, since it's around a corner. So we are going to grab some packed ice and place it directly under that trap door. And just like before, Colin, if you could grab that chest. All right, now in the corner next to your hopper line, we are going to go to the furthermost hopper, or rather the block in front of it, and place a chest. In addition to the block underneath the trapdoor, we're going to do another block, another ice block in front of our chest. So now we have 2 blocks. So as those items make the turn, they will skate across the ice, and then they're going to hit the chest. Now we are going to crouch and click on that chest with water. So grab your bucket of water. You are in the crawling position, but you still need to crouch. And Colin, if you could, since you're inside there, place another trapdoor above it. All right, I'm going to go up top. And actually, Colin, I'm going to replace this with glass so I can see you better. All right, Colin is inside of the water stream, and he just waterlogged this chest. The trapdoor will keep the water from flowing backwards. We want these items to go all the way to the chest. So 2 trapdoors, ice underneath, and we're going to do a line of iron bars all the way until we reach the end of our water. And then we're going to zigzag by placing iron bars in front of our water source, add a new water source, and carry it on 8 blocks. And we're going to do this all the way until we reach the end. All right, we are back at our starting point. However, we still have one more row that we need to add our water stream to. Now, this is only necessary if you're going to use water streams to fill these. You could fill these manually, but that will take some time. So once you reach the end, we are going to do the same thing that we did on the opposite end. Make a 1 block platform. Cap it off, which will force it to turn. And actually, I need to place a block there. There we go. That water looked a little funky. And you'll see that we are running into the exact same problem as before. So we are going to replace these bottom blocks with packed ice. With packed ice. And then we are going to place trapdoors on top of the trapped ice. And as you can see, the top stream is unaffected, and the items will have enough momentum breaking that turn that they will skate across the packed ice and continue down our new row of hoppers. So we're going to add a block and a barrier. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on the first half. Place a bucket of water. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the 5th block, a trapdoor. And you'll repeat this pattern all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trapdoor. Water. Just like that, all the way until you reach the end. Alright, Colin is going to start chucking a ton of blaze rods. Now what we do in DonutSMP, I know you can buy blaze rods from the shop, but we typically do huge orders so we can throw all of the pages at once. So go ahead and keep chucking them, Colin. We're going to just make sure that this water stream is working. Alright, we are rounding the first corner. As you can see, they are skating across just fine and realigning on that second chest. And as these hoppers continue to fill up, the fuel will go further and further. Alright, now we are rounding the second corner, or I guess the second turnaround. And you can see these are having no problem making it to the end. Alright, now you will just continue this for as many rows as you have. The most challenging part, and the part that you need to remember, is whenever you have a turnaround, you do have to use some kind of top slab or trap door for the items to pass under, while providing a solid platform on top for them to go across. This is not the only method, but this is the method that we use, and so hopefully you will find this helpful. But let's go ahead and move on to the crafting, because now that we have all of our kelp being converted into dried kelp, we need to combine it in a crafting table, and we're going to use crafters. So go ahead and grab your crafters. All right, now for this one, you are going to need a lot more hoppers. Before we add the hoppers, you are going to place 2 crafters, one at the end of each row, and you're going to do that just right in front of your smokers so they're facing away from your farm, just like that. And if you need to add a block in front to make it easier to place, you can certainly do so without messing anything up. Place both crafters on both rows facing away. Then we are going to do a line of hoppers underneath our smokers, just like that. And we're going to do this all the way to the end. So go ahead and do that. All right. Now you do have to be very careful that you are facing into the back of the hoppers. If you just point at the smoker, they will face down, and that will break the chain. So make sure that you are crouching and placing it into the back of the hopper in front of it. All hoppers should be facing towards your crafter. Once you have done that, we are going to add a simple 5-tick clock for our crafters. We don't need to double pulse this because it doesn't produce dried kelp fast enough to warrant double pulsing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a side. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to face away from the farm. And I'm going to place 2 observers in between. And then I'm going to place a temporary block, place an observer facing in to my crafter, and then I'm going to look up and place 2 observers. So you'll have 1, 2, 3. The first one faces into the crafter, and the second 2 face down. I'm going to place an observer looking at the bottom. I'm going to place an observer looking up, and then I'm going to add a note block. Just like that. And you'll see that that will continuously pulse those crafters. Since kelp cannot be crafted into anything other than kelp, or dried kelp can't be crafted into anything other than dried kelp blocks, which is all 9 slots open, you can leave this pulsing and you are not going to have any problems with it. If you wanted to add a lever onto that note block, you can certainly do so. Crouch and place it on the face of the note block. That way, when you power the note block, it can no longer create a block update, and that will stop your clock. The only time I ever do this is if I unload the chunks, reload the chunks, and the clock is broken. And then I just typically toggle the switch. But you can leave that on for the most part. All right. Now, we built ours to where the smoker is 7 blocks above the ground level. Now, you can adjust this up or down depending on your needs, and you would just adjust your bubble column. But what you're going to do next is you're going to add a double chest in front of your crafters. And then you're going to place 1 hopper facing straight down, and then you're going to run a line of hoppers all the way from the first chest. So all 4 crafters will be crafting, and the output of your kelp blocks will be in this bottom hopper. We are going to take a shulker box and we are going to add it directly underneath the hopper. And now we're just going to build a simple shulker loader. So what we're going to do is on the back side of the farm, we typically do this underneath. You can do it either direction, but we're going to do the back side of the farm. We're going to look at the hopper facing down with an observer, and then below we're going to place an observer facing down. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to place a dropper facing towards your shulker box. And then we're going to tower up. When we built this in Donut, I used scaffolding, but you can use temporary blocks. you're going to crouch and you're going to place a dispenser facing up. So when you look down, the dispenser will go up. So whatever texture pack you have, just make sure that it is looking at that shulker box. Now on the front of your dispenser is going to be a hopper, but it needs to face into a chest. So I'm going to place a double chest on the ground, and then I'm going to stagger it over one. Now again, this will be totally dependent on how high you built yours. So if yours is on the ground, you can just have a single box, but I'm going to go ahead and do 2. And then I'm going to connect it. The goal is to have a chest 1 block below your dispenser. We are going to place a hopper into that chest, and then we're going to grab a comparator and place it on top of the hopper, just like that. Now the next 2 blocks you'll need, Colin grabbed some redstone dust, I don't have that in my inventory. You're going to place a solid block off of the front of the comparator. So the comparator will be powering this solid block. And in front of the solid block, we're going to place a redstone block. On top, you're going to place 2 pieces of redstone dust. On the side of the shulker loader, if you didn't realize that's what we're building a shulker loader for all of our kelp blocks. We are going to place an observer into the redstone dust. Now you'll see that the redstone dust will power the redstone with a redstone level of 15. 1 block away will be 14. When the shulker box is completely full, the comparator will power the block in front, and that will change from 14 to 15, which the observer will detect, and then we are going to break the shulker box, which will be collected in the hopper. To break it, we're going to add 2 hoppers on the back of our dropper with a sticky piston facing inside of your observer, or looking at the observer. So when the redstone signal is detected, the observer will power the hopper. The observer behind the hopper will see that that hopper was powered, and then it will give a short pulse, which will then power the sticky piston. Now, when that sticky piston has that short pulse, it will spit out the observer after breaking the shulker box. When the shulker box breaks, the redstone dust will go from a power of 15 back to 14, which will then pulse a second time, causing the piston to retract the observer, which will then power the dropper and the dispenser, and a new shulker box will be dispensed. Now, one thing that I like to do, I like to place a barrier on both sides, starting at the observer. The shulker boxes can pop out, so I do like to block it off, but I do like to place a transparent or a block that's truly transparent, like glass, so you can see if the shulker box is indeed still there. And that is it. That is going to be a shulker loader for all 4 of your crafters, and we are ready to test. All right, you can see that the initial kelp is lining perfectly, and if we go down, we can see that those smokers are already starting to convert the kelp into dried kelp, and then they'll be picked up by the hoppers. All right, now let's talk about the numbers, because that is going to be the question that everybody asks. How many smokers do I need to keep up with my farm? Well, as we noted earlier, a 48 plant farm, which is what you see here, will produce 96 kelp every second. Now that is 2 kelp per plant. Smokers can convert kelp into dried kelp every 5 seconds. So you are going to need 10 smokers for every 1 plant to keep up with this farm. And if you did the math, that's 480 smokers. So really you are stuck with 2 options. The first option is for every kelp plant, you are going to place 10 smokers, and for a 48 plant kelp farm, you're going to need 480 smokers just to keep up. The second option is to create a massive kelp storage on top, run your kelp farm, and then AFK the smelting process. Now, there is no right or wrong way to do this. If you chose to do full capacity, you can connect a bone meal crafter and leave it running 24/7. What Colin and I did, just because of entity limits and space constraints, we added a huge storage system. That way all of our kelp can be ran extremely quickly, fill up the storage system, and then we'll AFK the smelting process and then sell all of our shulker boxes full of dried kelp blocks. Thank you so much for watching another one of our videos. That's going to wrap it up for today. I'm CD3 Daddy.
And I'm C3DG Minecraft.
And if you have enjoyed this video, do us a favor and hit that like button. If you plan on building this in your base, or if you have an idea on how to improve this farm, or if you have an idea for a farm that you would like to see on this channel, be sure to leave a comment below. If you have not already done so, subscribe. What are you waiting for? We will also be leaving a link in the description to our Discord channel, so go ahead and come join us and hang out with a bunch of awesome people. And a special thank you to our support VIP, Dr. Sausage Jr. He has recently joined our staff, and a big thank you to him for all the ticket support he is providing. And lastly, we want to thank HostBite for sponsoring this video. That link will also be in the description, so go check them out.